Imagine seeing the world you've learned to know in a completely different perspective. Seeing colors stronger, lights brighter, and feeling as though you are one with the universe, while potentially ridding yourself of mental or medical disorders. I believe that the use of psychedelics coupled with supervised therapy can produce breakthrough results in a variety of medical conditions, as well as a person's general outlook on life. Some background information. One of many types of psychedelics is lysergic acid diethylamide, or LSD. It was first synthesized on November 16, 1938, by Albert Hofmann, a Swiss chemist for a pharmaceutical firm. It wasn't until 5 years later, on April 19, 1943, that any psychedelic properties were found. Hofmann had accidentally got some of the chemical on his hands, and on his way home, riding his bike, he began to experience the trip. And that day is known as Bicycle Day. In the 1970s, the drug became well known and embraced by society. And in the panic reaction of authorities, psychedelics were listed along with heroin in the highest rung of prohibition. But after more than 30 years of psychedelic research being banned, in the 1990s, the Food and Drug Administration approved the first human clinical studies of psychedelics. Now, while there may be some cons to the use of psychedelics, the medical pros dramatically outweigh them. Beginning in the 1940s, many studies were conducted in attempts to discover if the substance had any medicinal value. The studies were working to find potential therapies for a number of tough-to-treat disorders, such as opiate, tobacco, and alcohol addiction, anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. In 1960, a survey of the findings of 44 physicians who administered 25,000 doses of LSD to 5,000 people under a variety of conditions found no case of severe or prolonged physical side effects or any sign of addictive potential. In fact, they reported positive and in some cases miraculous results. Carhart Harris from Imperial's Department of Medicine worked on a study to find out if psilocybin, another psychedelic, could improve symptoms of depression. And he said that he observed the abilities of psychedelics that gave users a level of emotional insight and promoted a more exploratory kind of thinking. These psychedelics not only have medical values, but can greatly transform how you view the world as well as yourself, for the better. Many famous writers, musicians, artists, and humanitarians such as the Beatles, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Jimi Hendrix, Bill Gates, and Steve Jobs all used the drug LSD or another psychedelic and reported only positive, enlightening experiences. Studies have shown how psychedelic drugs can activate a dreamlike state which can be utilized for various psychotherapeutic techniques. The Beatles actually wrote a song about LSD and said that in the process of writing, it helped them with their search for enlightenment. The terminally ill patients tend to not be too optimistic about life and dwell on the fact that they're moving closer and closer to death every day. A British psychiatrist and neuropsychopharmacologist specializing in the research of drugs that affect the brain said that people are very, very frightened of dying. They see it as the end, but on psychedelics, the sense of self begins to break down. The users stop viewing the world superficially and start viewing themselves more spiritually. In conclusion, the many studies of the many studies on the psychiatric use of psychedelics have indeed shown that they can improve an assortment of mental conditions, addictions, and a person's perspective on life. I don't see these kinds of psychedelics as drugs. I see them as opportunities for mental improvement. I encourage those with existing conditions to seek alternative avenues for treatment. The mind is not to be kept in society's cage. Expand your consciousness.
You gonna do it over?
No.